Hi, welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be creating a ChatGPT clone using .NET Core, Blazor and the OpenAI. So in order to get started, we need to head over to Visual Studio. We'll create a new project. You want to select the Blazor server app. Click Next. We'll call this ChatGPT clone. Next. Right, that would have created our basic project for us. The next thing we're going to need is a API key which you can generate on the OpenAI site. So if we head over to the browser, you can, in your account, head over to the API keys page and then click the create secret. This will pop up a window. Make a copy of this key because you're going to need it. If we now head back over to Visual Studio, on your project, right click and go to manage user secrets. In here we'll make an OpenAI key, and within there we'll put the API key. We'll paste that in there. Right, once that's done, the next thing we're going to need to do is install a NuGet package to access the OpenAI APIs. Now I've created a GitHub repo which contains a library which we can use for the purpose of this. So I'll head over there quickly and just show you. So yeah, it's called OpenAI.net. The package in NuGet is called OpenAI net.client. I'll put some links in the description for you guys to be able to access this. So if we head back over to Visual Studio, what we need to do is add a NuGet package. We'll add OpenAI.net. You should see it over here. We'll install that. Next thing we need to do is head over to our program.cs and add the required services. So we just need to add at the top here using OpenAI.net, and then go down to our services and add them in. So there's a nice extension method you can use on here just to add all the required services. And then what we need to do is specify within the options our API key that we just created. So in order to access the API key from the secrets file, we can use the builder.configuration, specify the key, if I could type OpenAI and then API key, and then we should be ready to go. What we'll do quick is just run this website as is, just so we can see the standard template, and then we can start modifying it from there. Okay, so the app's up and running. As you can see, this is the basic template. It's got a counter page where you can increment the counter, and it's got a fetch data tab which lists some weather forecasts for us. So what we'll do now is head over back into Visual Studio. Okay, so the first thing we're going to want to do in Visual Studio is create a new page that we can go to. So for the purpose of this, we're just going to copy this fetch data page. We'll rename this to chat, and then we'll just modify this a little bit. So this is the route that it's going to be presented on. We'll change that to chat. We'll change this to OpenAI chat. We can get rid of this. What we do need to use is the OpenAI.net namespace, and then we're also going to want to inject the OpenAI service, and then let's just change a few of these bits over here as well, and we can pretty much get rid of all of this for now. Right, the next thing we're going to need to do is get rid of this. Okay, so what we can do is quickly just head over to our data folder, and we're going to create a new model to store our chat conversation. So we'll just call this chat info, and on here all we're going to need is just the message, and for the purpose of this we'll just create another string for the user so we can store both our messages and the responses. Alright, perfect. The next thing we're going to need is just another model to hold the search data from the form. So we'll just add another class called search info. We'll add a property called search string, which is just a string or search text. Okay, so if we head back over to the Razor page, what we need to do is declare a property over here for our search model. So we'll use the search info class we've just created. Alright, perfect. The next thing we need to do is create our edit form. So we'll put this over here. We'll add an input for the text. We'll bind the value to our search model. Oh, sorry. Search model.search text. And the other thing we're going to need is just a submit button. So we'll add a button over here. Add a submit button, and we'll call that search. Alright, perfect. Okay, next thing we need to do is just declare an array over here to store our chat history. So we'll use our chat info class that we created a minute ago. We'll just call this history for now. And then what we'll go ahead and do is create a new method that we can call to call the API and return the results for us. So we'll call this search. And then with the OpenAI .NET Client Library, there's two methods you can call. There's a synchronous method and there's a streaming method. For the purpose of this, we'll use the streaming method so that we get the text as it's coming through from the API. So in order to do this, we'll get the response from the API, OpenAI. And we'll look at the text completion service and we'll get the stream, and then all this takes is a parameter that is the search text. So we'll pass in our search model dot search text, and then once we've got our results we can assign it to the history. What we'll do is go ahead and add our current request to the search history. So we'll go history.add and we'll add a new chat info, and this will contain our search text we just searched for, search model dot search text, and we'll set the user set the user to does tech. Next thing I'll do is I'll add another record for the response that's going to be coming in from the API. We'll just set the message to blank for now and we'll call this AI. And then what we'll do over here is we'll assign the last record in here to the current text that's coming back from the API. And we're going to be appending this because it's a stream that's coming through, you'll see in a second. So response.result, and then the choices contains the text that's come back from the API. So we'll do that. Okay, now we've got a method in place, we can go back up to the edit form and we can set our model, which is our search model. We also want to set the onValidate submit to our search function. We'll save that, and then okay, the next thing we'll do is we'll just create a simple list over here to render out the items. So we'll say for each item in the history, we'll go ahead and we'll just print out a simple li. I'll just put two divs in here, and we'll print out the user in this one, item.user, and in this one we'll print out the item.message. We'll save that. The one other thing I just want to do here quickly is once the search is completed is just to clear the search text again. Okay, perfect. I think we're ready to run this, so let's go ahead and run this. Okay, before we do that, actually one last thing we need to do is just on our navigation menu, let's just add an item to navigate to our new chat page. So we'll just copy that one, we'll call this chat, and we'll just change this path to chat. Okay, perfect, we'll close that and then we shall run this. Okay, so if we switch back over to the browser, we can see the app's up and running. We've got our new chat menu item we created. And let's test it out. So we'll say write a poem about Christmas, and that's now written a poem. You'll see that the response is quite short. What you can do if we switch back to Visual Studio is you can specify options when you call the API. So if we go over here and we say options, and then what we can do is say o dot max tokens equals 1024. I think by default it's set to 16, which is quite low. So we'll do that, we'll save it, and let's just stop that quickly again, and then we'll run it again. Okay, if we switch back to the browser and we try that again, we should get a slightly longer response come back. You'll notice at the moment that it's waiting for the entire response to come back before we see anything on the UI. If we want to rectify that, if we go back to Visual Studio, so what we need to do is call state has changed. What this will do is cause the UI to re-render itself. And if we run that again and then switch back to the browser, we should be able to go to the chat and we'll ask the same question again. And this should produce a longer answer for us and also show us as it's writing, as you can see. Perfect. Let's see if it can tell us a joke. Oh, there we go. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. That's a very basic example of how to use the API. Obviously, you could take this a lot further. But if you like this, please consider subscribing and hit the bell and the notification to get notified of new videos. Thank you. Cheers. Bye.